In the late 19th century, the world was a much smaller place. Transportation was dictated by the physical limits of animals and the rigid paths of iron rails. If you wanted to go somewhere, you either walked, rode a horse, or boarded a train. The idea of personal, motorized freedom was nothing more than a fever dream shared by a few obsessed tinkerers in cluttered workshops across Europe and America. When Carl Benz first sputtered down a dusty road in his patent motor wagon in 1886, he wasn't just driving a three-wheeled contraption, he was unleashing a mechanical revolution that would eventually rewrite the map of the world and redefine the human experience. This was the dawn of the veteran era, a time when cars were essentially horseless carriages. They were fragile, loud, and incredibly difficult to operate. There were no steering wheels, just tillers that felt like something off a boat. There were no pedals in the way we understand them today. Engines were simple, single-cylinder units that produced barely enough power to outpace a brisk walk. Yet, in these primitive machines, the DNA of every modern supercar was already present. The internal combustion engine was a violent, unrefined heart, but it promised a future where distance was no longer a barrier. By the early 1900s, the horseless carriage began to evolve into something more intentional. The brass era brought with it a sense of craftsmanship and luxury. Names like Rolls-Royce and Cadillac began to emerge, treating the automobile not just as a tool, but as a statement of status. These cars were draped in polished brass, fine leather, and hand-finished wood. They were toys for the ultra-wealthy, symbols of the Gilded Age. But while the elite were enjoying their bespoke motor cars, a man in Detroit named Henry Ford was reimagining the entire process. The introduction of the Model T in 1908 changed everything. Ford didn't just build a car, he built a system. By perfecting the moving assembly line, he took the automobile out of the hands of the 1% and put it into the hands of the working class. The Model T was rugged, simple, and affordable. It wasn't fast, and it certainly wasn't luxurious, but it was dependable. It taught the world how to drive. It forced governments to pave roads and build gas stations. For the first time in history, the average family could pack a bag and see what lay beyond the next horizon. This was the moment the car stopped being a curiosity and started being a necessity. As the 1920s roared to life, the automotive industry entered its first true golden age. This was the era of the classics. Engineers were no longer just trying to make cars run, they were trying to make them fast and beautiful. The vintage period saw the birth of the straight-eight engine and the supercharger. Duesenberg, Packard, and Auburn were building machines that were as much art as they were engineering. A Duesenberg Model J wasn't just a car, it was a 3-ton masterpiece of chrome and steel that could hit 100 miles per hour when most roads were still made of dirt. Across the Atlantic, European manufacturers were taking a different approach. While Americans focused on size and presence, the Europeans were focused on agility and racing. Bugatti and Alfa Romeo were dominated the early Grand Prix circuits, proving that lightweight construction and aerodynamic shapes were the keys to performance. This tension between American muscle and European finesse would become a defining theme for the next century of automotive development. The Great Depression and the Second World War brought a temporary halt to the pursuit of luxury and speed. Factories that once produced sleek coupes were converted to churn out tanks, planes, and jeeps. However, the war served as a massive pressure cooker for technological advancement. Engines became more reliable, fuels became more efficient, and the world learned how to mass-produce complex machinery at a scale never seen before. When the soldiers returned home to America in the late 1940s, they brought with them a hunger for excitement and a technical knowledge of mechanics that would spark the next great evolution. The 1920s in America were defined by optimism and excess. As the interstate highway system began to snake across the country, cars grew longer, lower, and wider. This was the age of the tail fin and the chrome bumper. Designers like Harley Earl at General Motors looked to the burgeoning jet age for inspiration. Cars like the Cadillac Eldorado looked like they were ready to take off, even when they were parked. Under the hoods, the V8 engine became the standard. It was smooth, powerful, and made a sound that became the soundtrack of the American dream. While America was obsessed with comfort and style, Europe was rebuilding from the rubble, and out of this necessity came a different kind of icon. In Italy, Enzo Ferrari was building road cars solely to fund his racing team. These weren't just transport, they were high-strung, screaming thoroughbreds. The 1950s gave us the Mercedes-Benz 300 SL Gullwing, a car that used fuel injection and a space-frame chassis derived from racing. It was arguably the world's first true supercar. It proved that a car could be breathtakingly beautiful and terrifyingly fast at the same time. As we moved into the 1960s, the world of performance split into two distinct paths. In the United States, the muscle car era was born. It was a simple formula: take a mid-sized family car and stuff the largest V8 possible under the hood. The Pontiac GTO, the Plymouth Hemi Cuda, and the Chevrolet Chevelle SS were built for the drag strip and the stoplight sprint. They were loud, aggressive, and unapologetically American. This was power for the people, accessible and raw. But 1964 brought something even more impactful: the Ford Mustang. It created the pony car segment, sporty, affordable coupes that allowed young people to express their individuality. The Mustang was a cultural phenomenon that sold over 1 million units in its first 2 years. It proved that style and performance didn't have to be exclusive to the rich. Meanwhile, in Europe, the 1960s represented the peak of the Grand Tour. The Jaguar E-Type arrived in 1961, looking like a rolling sculpture. Even Enzo Ferrari called it the most beautiful car ever made. It was a time when names like Aston Martin and Lamborghini became household words. In 1966, Lamborghini changed the game forever with the Miura. By mounting a V12 engine sideways behind the driver, they created the mid-engine layout that remains the blueprint for almost every supercar today. The Miura wasn't just a car, it was a provocative statement that the future of performance lived in the middle of the chassis. In the 1970s, the realistic reality hit. The oil crisis and new emissions regulations in the United States threatened to kill the performance car entirely. Muscle cars lost their teeth and engines were strangled by early smog equipment. But out of this darkness came innovation. Porsche began experimenting with turbocharging on the 911, finding a way to extract massive power from smaller engines. In Japan, manufacturers like Honda and Toyota were perfecting the art of the reliable, fuel-efficient compact car. The world was learning that bigger wasn't always better. By the time the 1980s arrived, technology began to catch up with the dream of speed. This was the era of the poster car. Electronic fuel injection replaced the temperamental carburetor, and onboard computers began to manage engine performance in real time. The Ferrari F40 and the Porsche 959 were the titans of this decade. They were the first cars to break the 200-mile-per-hour barrier. The F40 was a brutal, lightweight carbon fiber go-kart, while the 959 was a high-tech laboratory on wheels with all-wheel drive and adjustable suspension. They represented two different philosophies on how to achieve the ultimate driving experience. The 1990s refined these concepts even further. This was perhaps the last era of the analog supercar. The McLaren F1 arrived in 1992 and redefined what was possible. With a gold-lined engine bay and a central driving position, it stayed the fastest naturally aspirated production car for decades. It was a masterpiece of purity. At the same time, the Japanese golden era gave us cars like the Nissan Skyline GTR, the Toyota Supra, and the Acura NSX. These cars proved that Japan could beat the Europeans at their game by using advanced technology and bulletproof engineering. As we crossed into the new millennium, the term supercar started to feel insufficient. A new breed of machine emerged, the hypercar. In 2005, the Bugatti Veyron shattered the world's perception of what a car could do. It had 16 cylinders, four turbochargers, and over 1,000 horsepower. It could reach 250 miles per hour while maintaining the luxury of a private jet. It was a monument to engineering excess, proving that with enough cooling and aerodynamic wizardry, the laws of physics could be bent to our will. But the evolution didn't stop at raw power. The 2010s introduced the holy trinity of hypercars, the Ferrari LaFerrari, the McLaren P1, and the Porsche 918 Spyder. These three machines proved that hybridization wasn't just for fuel economy, it was for performance. By using electric motors to fill in the gaps of an internal combustion engine, they achieved levels of acceleration that were previously unimaginable. They were the bridge between the old world of gasoline and the new world of electricity. Today, we are witnessing the most radical shift in automotive history since Carl Benz first turned his tiller. The rise of the electric supercar is here. Machines like the Rimac Nevera and the Pininfarina Battista are delivering nearly 2,000 horsepower and 0 to 60 times under 2 seconds. They are silent, clinical, and devastatingly fast. The internal combustion engine, which served as the heart of the automobile for over 130 years, is now sharing the stage with high-voltage batteries and silicon carbide inverters. We have moved from hand-cranked wooden wagons to carbon fiber masterpieces that are more computer than car. The modern supercar is a symphony of active aerodynamics, torque vectoring, and regenerative braking. Yet despite all the technology, the core appeal remains the same as it was in the days of the Model T or the Duesenberg. It is about the thrill of the open road. It is about the emotional connection between a human and a machine. It is about the relentless pursuit of going faster, further, and more beautifully than we did yesterday. The evolution of the car is a story of human ingenuity. We took a simple explosion in a metal tube and used it to shrink the planet. We took the wind and shaped it into downforce. We took the Earth's elements and forged them into engines that can scream at 9,000 RPM. Whether it's the clatter of a vintage V-twin or the high-frequency hum of a modern electric motor, the automobile remains our greatest invention, a literal vehicle for our dreams and a testament to our refusal to stand still. As we look toward the future, the definition of a car continues to blur. Autonomous driving, artificial intelligence, and sustainable fuels are the next frontiers. But no matter how much the technology changes, the essence of the classic spirit will always endure. The roar of a 1960s V8 or the elegant lines of a pre-war roadster serve as reminders of where we came from. Every modern supercar, with its sensors and screens, still carries the DNA of those early pioneers who dared to believe that we could travel faster than a horse. The journey from vintage classics to modern supercars isn't just a timeline of mechanical upgrades. It's a reflection of our culture, our ambition, and our obsession with movement. We started by trying to solve the problem of distance, and we ended up creating a form of art that moves us in more ways than one. The road ahead is uncertain, but if the last century is any indication, the evolution is far from over. the automobile will continue to change, to adapt, and to surprise us, remaining the ultimate symbol of human freedom on four wheels. Looking back at the trajectory, the sheer pace of development is staggering. Consider that in 1900, a car with 20 horsepower was considered a powerhouse. Today, a family sedan has 10 times that, and a top-tier supercar has 50 times that amount. We have mastered the art of managing heat, friction, and airflow to a degree that would have seemed like magic to the engineers of the 1920s. We have moved from steel and wood to magnesium, titanium, and pre-preg carbon fiber. Yet there's a certain soul in the older machines that modern cars struggle to replicate. A vintage Ferrari or a classic Shelby Cobra requires the driver to be fully present. You smell the unburned fuel, you feel the vibration through the steering column, and you have to fight the mechanical linkages to make the car do your bidding. There is a physical dialogue between man and machine. Modern supercars, by contrast, are so capable that they often mask the driver's inputs with layers of electronic safety nets. They are faster, safer, and more efficient, but the challenge has shifted from surviving the drive to mastering the technology. This creates a fascinating dynamic in the current automotive landscape. We see a resurgence of interest in resto-modding, taking classic shapes and stuffing them with modern performance. People want the timeless beauty of a 1960s Porsche or a 1970s Range Rover, but they want the reliability and power of the 21st century. This blend of eras shows that while we value the progress we've made, we aren't ready to let go of the character that defined the early decades. The transition to electric power represents the biggest hurdle for automotive enthusiasts. For over a century, the character of a car was defined by its engine. The V angle, the firing order, the exhaust note, these were the things that gave a car its personality. In a world of silent electric motors, manufacturers are having to find new ways to create an emotional bond. They're using haptic feedback, synthetic soundscapes, and radical designs to ensure that the supercar of tomorrow feels just as special as the supercar of yesterday. We are currently living in a transition period that historians will likely look back on as the most exciting time in automotive history. We have the peak of internal combustion, cars like the Porsche 911 GT3 or the Ferrari 812, coexisting with the pioneers of the electric age. We're spoiled for choice, witnessing the absolute limit of what gasoline can do, while seeing the first glimpses of what electricity can achieve. From the first puff of smoke in Mannheim to the silent launch of a hyper EV on a track in Dubai, the car has been our constant companion. It has shaped our cities, influenced our music, and defined our personal identities. It began as a fragile experiment and evolved into a high-performance marvel that pushes the boundaries of what is physically possible. The story of the car is our story, a relentless drive toward the horizon, fueled by the desire to see what's around the next curve. As the decades roll on, the shapes will change and the power sources will shift, but the core motivation will remain. We will always want to go faster. We will always want to turn heads, and we will always find a way to turn a machine into something that feels alive. The evolution from those vintage classics to today's modern supercars isn't just a history of parts and pieces, it's a history of passion. It's a reminder that as long as there are roads to be driven, there will be engineers and dreamers trying to build the perfect machine to conquer them. The early innovators like Ettore Bugatti or Ferdinand Porsche likely couldn't have imagined a car that could adjust its own suspension 1,000 times a second, or a vehicle that could navigate a city on its own. Yet they would recognize the spirit behind it. They would recognize the obsession with detail, the quest for lightness, and the thrill of the race. That spirit is the thread that connects a 1920s Grand Prix car to a 2020s hypercar. It's a legacy of speed that refuses to fade, a journey that started with a single spark and has grown into a fire that continues to burn in the hearts of every driver who has ever looked at a car and seen more than just a way to get from point A to point B.